Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to the First Nations News Podcast. Back here for episode 2. We hope you enjoyed episode 1. First of all, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land we're sitting on. We are sitting on Whadjuk Nyoongar Boodja. And for all viewers and guests, we'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands in which you're sitting on. We are joined today by a young gentleman who's had a huge reconciliation week. Kobi Morrison goes by the name of Koortal. So pleased to have Kobi on the podcast. Kobi, it's been a big couple of weeks. Obviously coming out of reconciliation week. Packed house, Roger Cook. How was it?
It was a lovely time. Quite a productive time. It was like a little bit stressful leading up to it because there was a lot of rehearsals and stuff, and I was like a little bit on the fence to be like re-emerging, but on the day it just felt really, really good for the soul. Everybody was vibing with it, we sung Beds Are Burning. That was the song that Reconciliation Australia had selected. And as soon as I found out about that, I translated it and decided to release that under it's my like stage alias Koortal. They were wondering if we could sing it on the day, and I was like, sure, let's try and teach some of these people how to sing a little bit in Noongar as well. And it sounded really good. We were really, really happy with it. I wasn't nearly as available to help people along, but they managed to do such an amazing job anyway. For some people singing on that day, it was essentially the first time that they had attempted some language, and it's pretty phenomenal that they managed to land it pretty well. And we when we started singing in language, we got some cheers from the crowd, which was really really liberating. It's really lovely. It does it can be a very sometimes emotional experience in depending on who's witnessing it, because there's a wide array of response when some people hear other people speaking or singing in language. Cool. And so
So for everybody watching, for those that don't know, Kobi is a proud Noongar man. He is a linguist. He is a teacher. And as mentioned, he had a huge week with Reconciliation Week, singing Beds Are Burning by Midnight Oil. But before we get into that, let's backtrack a bit. Obviously, music is a huge influence and a key part of your life.
Absolutely.
Growing up, let's just share, if you don't mind, who you are, where you grew up, some of your background, and how we ended up with you rocking out to a packed crowd in front of the Premier.
Kaya Nyananko Kobi. I am a Morrison. I am a Parfit. I am a coin, a star, a heart, a daima, a Humes, a Benel. I'm a combination of Minang, Goreng, Kaniang, a little bit of Bibbulmun, and Whadjuk. And very much stoked to be a part of the family that I am a part of, because very wonderful humans from both my mum's side and my dad's side of the family. My mum's side is my Nyoongar side of my family. My dad's side being, I was going to say Whadjuk, but it's my dad's side family is very much like strong cultural allies, as far as I'm concerned, and I mean, those are just the obviously the families that I was born into, but I'm lucky enough to kind of see a whole bunch of different groups as different family, different mort. It was like, a number of different villages had kind of contributed to my upbringing, and so most of what I do these days is usually just to kind of make them proud mainly. So
I was going to say some of those names that you rattled off there's some big names. I do know a lot of the families, and some of the, I've got some of the cousins from the family. So you're very well connected, and your mum Della Ray is quite a prominent, or was quite a prominent musician as well. So obviously shaped some of your musical journey.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of music. Music was just always in the house, always being played.
Yep, absolutely.
My understanding is you are a pretty decent pianist, or you play piano.
That's my first instrument. Yeah, I don't know if I'm still decent.
And there's a little bit of guitar in there. So talk us through. With the music, obviously culture as well. Within culture, music is very prominent.
Absolutely.
So how did you, growing up, marry the two, I guess? Because obviously you don't just land playing a big show like Reconciliation Week without the two being key aspects of your life.
Yeah. Both sides of the family were fairly. Are very musical. On my mum's side of the family, it's just been like consistent music all the time, and so I was very much raised on the classics, Creedence Clearwater Revival and Slim Dusty and Troy Cassadaly, and I've a lot of kind of like my music taste and repertoires kind of revolve around just like retro music, and I guess a lot of how I play my music tends to kind of fall in with like Ben Harper, Jack Johnson, John Butler, plenty of local influences that kind of shaped my style, like George Wally. He was a huge inspiration to the way that I play. When I first started picking up guitar, it was pretty much me observing him in playing stuff, and then every now and then being like, did I do it right? Am I doing it right? And he's like, yes, you're doing fine. I like to say that I got the fingers of a Parfitt, because a long line of the Parfitt family are, in my opinion, are very good guitarists, and one day I'll get up to that level. My grandfather, rest in peace, Edward Parfitt, he was really a really good player, and clearly passed that on to my uncle Paul, who was a really good player. My mum was fairly decent at the guitar as well, it's just so many different things to contribute, in the sense of like, what I am, what I do. It's really good to be able to kind of have the that sort of discography, especially when the songs that we celebrate and sing time and time again, in some cases still prove to be extremely relevant even to this very day, lyrically speaking. It's it's pretty fantastic. And then like you said, like you had mentioned, my mum Del Rey has been very much involved in just like the arts, just like First Nations arts in general. It's was very involved in many different ways. She had helped, like she was one of the co-creators of Chocolate Martini, which is still pretty predominant on NITV these days in the form of volumes. And volumes is kind of like a music video show and stuff. A while ago, Mum started a choir called Whadjuk Choir. She co-founded that with Joe Randall. And it was meant to be just like a 3-month project. And now we are currently celebrating our 20th year of being a choir. When that choir first started out, I was about 11 years old, and I was just sitting in the corner of the room just doing my own thing, like just studying or playing video games or something. And then after a couple of years of like being there consistently, it started kind of, properly clicking to me just how important a group like this is. There wasn't really any kind of group like this where people of multiple cultures would all be coming together for the celebration of culture in the form of music. And so I was like, I want to be a part of this and help make sure that this continues. So yeah, I started bringing my guitar. George Wally was one of the music directors at the time, and so I was just sitting next to him working it out. And he and my mum were like, co-directing the choir for a couple of years, and then while Joe was coordinating. And yeah, eventually we've had a couple of different music directors over time, and then I started stepping up to be a music director, helping out Mum, and now I now run Whadjuk Nyoongar Incorporated. I'm as their coordinator. Since its beginnings, MM has kind of like, expanded into a couple of different peripheries. So we have 2 other choirs, Wali Karnajul, which is based in Fremantle, and Kundam, which is like a youth choir. I say youth choir, it's been around for about 10 years. We're not so much youth anymore, but still lovely humans all the same. And then we have this an initiative called Kulung, meaning child, which is a Noongar Songs in Schools initiative, and that had been going since about 2015 or so. And we would go into schools and teach aspects of culture through music for about an hour to the students, and that really took off. It was really lovely, but it kind of burnt us out. By the pre-COVID, we were pretty much in like 2 or so schools per week, and it was we were in like 3 schools per day during like NAIDOC and Reconciliation Week and stuff, just like, those particular weeks. And so we decided to take Kulung essentially online. We turned it into an online subscription service called Kulung Mort. So that's kind of helped expand our reach to be more accommodating for schools that are, throughout the southwest, still in Noongar lands, and trying to help teachers kind of make it easier for them to teach aspects of culture without feeling that discomfort.
Yeah.
All the songs that are in there are songs that have been provided by artists with their express permission to be able to talk about this stuff. So we have wonderful people like George, and Natasha Eldridge has an amazing song. Candace Lorray and Crystal Kickett, we're now working as Marindas together. Who else? Deli Stokes. He was very, very lovely in providing Campfires, which was a wonderful, very relevant song. Annie Josie Boyle, rest in peace. She was wonderful inspiration. Mum provided a couple of songs. We have a couple of translations. We have a Noongar version of the national anthem, and so some schools are really kind of diving right into trying to sing that in language, which is really, really exciting. And so, and all all the songs that are in there, we've tried to provide like curriculum outcomes. So teachers are able to like justify teaching this and like relate it back to the specific part that they're teaching. So, we're trying to make it easy for anybody and everybody to teach some aspects of culture without it, being taken away from First Nations people, So
there's a few things that you mentioned there, which are really highly relevant for our communities, right?
Mm-hmm.
So language, you mentioned language.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, we know that language is the foundation of culture, retaining culture as well. So, I mentioned at the start that you are a teacher. So you've tied this back in, obviously keeping our kids engaged in school and education, retaining culture in the school, supporting teachers and especially probably our non-Indigenous teachers in the education system, making it accessible and easy for them to engage, with our kids. Talk to us about your language journey. Obviously, learning a language is not easy, and it's clear that music was a huge influence. You come from a very strong line of leaders and family, like strong background there. Then going into language and tying all of those things into within your teaching. How did the language journey start?
Yeah, so the language journey started essentially when I was born. It was really good to, in the Morrison family, it was really lovely to just be able to have so many members in the family, well, in both sides of my family even, be so strongly celebrating a sense of culture. A lot of people I've come to realize that a lot of people had kind of acknowledged that it was a bit of a tragedy that aspects of culture was being hidden away. And so what the family had is essentially ended up doing in response to that is being very much like openly celebrate your culture, openly celebrate. And so every now and then bits and pieces of language will be utilized in our everyday language. And, that was kind of essentially normal for me, which is, a huge privilege considering like it wasn't the same for a lot of other people. Over time, that kind of, really kind of like became very stark to me, being like, we have these privileges to allow us to do some amazing things going forward. It had really kind of shook me that once upon a time, my great nan, Maisie Lou Weston, who she passed away last year, rest in peace. When she was taken to the mission, she was about 7 years old when language was removed from her life. And it wasn't so much them telling her that she's not allowed to speak a language. Language was physically beaten out of her time and time again when she was 7 years old. And so you could tell that she had anxiety every time she had heard language. It never properly occurred to me when I was a kid why she was feeling this way when she would hear it. When she had her kids, my grandmother included, they didn't have much language because they didn't want a negative response from a wider society. And so there was a lot of hesitation towards doing that. And then the next generation came, my mum's generation, and they had all kind of acknowledged that this was the way that things were, but it was the way that it shouldn't be, And so they started, exploring some of the old words that they had back in the day, and properly taking a look at how things were said, you know. So my mom had properly started taking the journey. She wanted to become a bit more of a fluent speaker, and she did so through her music. She was running a band called Yarralin Singers, who became Jiva. And in that, she was like, I want to create more music and I want to have more language in this music because I believe it will be a healing journey. And that had become very inspiring. Obviously, you know, I was lucky enough to be able to have these bits and pieces of language throughout my upbringing without it properly, occurring to me just how, like, devastating things were. I think it was about 2017 that I properly decided that I wanted to become a fluent speaker in Noongar. And so the first step that I took in doing that was I translated one of my mum's songs. In 1997, she wrote a song called Universal Love. And I decided that to celebrate 20 years of that song existing, in 2017, I translated that into Noongar. And we started singing it in choir. And so the choirs all do that song now. And it's become a bit of a tradition that we end all of our choir sessions singing that song in English and in language. For a little while there, we sung it in Gaelic Irish, because as a Morrison, we had a bit of Irish heritage there too. And so music has definitely been a main vehicle, a main catalyst in being able to help me get much better in speaking language. It didn't quite occur to me at the time when I first started learning language, it didn't quite occur to me that there was going to come a day where I would step up to becoming an actual LOTE teacher. It's been an absolute phenomenal opportunity to be able to teach these kids. Teaching at Whadjuk Nyoongar Community College, I'm following in the footsteps of Nana Roma Winmar and Arnie Marinda Hansen, in teaching what is now about 120 or so Noongar kids. All of them know the importance of learning language and taking as much language with them. I've been able to teach at a couple of different schools throughout Perth throughout my time, and you get a lot of kind of ratbacks every now and then, right? And so it was a huge contrast to be able to see that these kids, you know, they really have been pretty dedicated in making sure that they are learning this stuff. And yeah, that's extremely motivating every single day.
You just you just mentioned a few names there, and obviously where you are a teacher now, teaching language, you are a linguist, very much in grassroots out there in Midland.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for any of us that are out in community, every suburb's different, every community's different, and I personally, I think you find somewhere where you feel like you belong or you have a purpose, and the kids, especially when you're working with youth or young people, when you build that connection with the kids and whatnot, I dare say it's probably very fulfilling, rocking up to work every day, and I don't even think this is a job, if I'm being serious. So how long have you been out there? Obviously, you talk about it very passionately, and you can see that it's probably more than a job.
I've been there for about 1.5 years.
Yep.
And it was after finding out that NaNoWriMo was retiring from that role. That was an end of an era I don't think I'm ever going to quite fill those shoes. There's no slowing her down. She still works at ECU as their elder in residence. She's early 80s, I'm pretty sure. I don't want to try and guess.
In her 60s.
Yeah. She's 40s. And and so being there and just gradually learning more about the community and how I'm able to just help these kids and stuff. It's just been so good. I mean, in comparison to how things had been when the school first started out, I say I got pretty lucky in the sense that there's been a whole heap of just community engagement, social, health advocacy, just the way that the school is now is so stunning. When once upon a time it was a difficult school to be teaching in, from what I've heard.
Yep.
I haven't had that experience so much firsthand. Every now and then there are the occasional slip-ups, but it's not something that occurs every single day or every single time. It's when it first started out, there was about 30 kids in the entire school max. And that, number has been gradually climbing. It's pretty fantastic that these kids are being supported by these teachers, because a good chunk of them are really, really extremely passionate. There's a certain amount of teachers that are, First Nations teachers, which is really good, because they just, you can tell just how deeply connected kind of feel about it.
And so we've touched on a few things. Obviously, we've touched on music as a key driver and a key influence growing up. Obviously, family, huge family. Many big names there within the community here. Language and culture, which brings us to, obviously, we're coming out the back end of Reconciliation Week 2026. It's been a big couple of years, and we're still on the reconciliation journey. And as blackfellas, and Aboriginal men and women, we come through NAIDOC Week, Reconciliation Week, and people like yourself are out there literally, fighting the good fight out in our schools, bringing on the next generation. What does reconciliation mean for you? And I do want to say thank you for sharing your language journey, right? Because some of that stuff, and I know, for me with my great grandparents, and when you're young, you don't understand this stuff, and then as you get older, and you start to really unpack that, and you understand your history and where you come from, and your grandparents and your great grandparents, it puts things into perspective.
Yeah.
So, and we have an obligation to continue on with the hard work that they've done, right? So, it's 2026, Reconciliation Week. We've got NAIDOC Week coming up. How have you seen the changes, or what does Reconciliation Week mean for you and your family?
Huge question. Oh man. So the concept of reconciliation was an interesting one, because in the particular world, in particular extremely privileged world that I grew up in, I was surrounded by a whole bunch of people who were basically already reconciled, and so it really did kind of just it was quite a revelation to just hear that there was so many different alcoves throughout Australia, or just people who had no interest in just understanding each other's cultures, really affected me. in the choirs specifically, being able to like just witness all these people singing and celebrating a sense of culture unhesitantly, no matter what culture they were from. It wasn't common. It wasn't common as I thought it was, you know. And so, yeah, that was probably one of the main motivators that made me want to step up as a guitarist and try and just kind of help the initiative of this. The choir, when it started, was like, there's a number of reasons why it was started. Obviously, it was started as a project, and it was just meant to be like a testament of cultures being able to come together and celebrating a sense of traditional culture. But then it kind of gradually grew to becoming a whole lot more. Like, everybody in the choirs at the time didn't quite understand just how important something like this existed until people from all around the community were just like, don't stop now. This is something else. You need to keep going, you know? It was just the continuous support of the wider community that just kind of reiterated that something like this existing is extremely important and should be continuing on. And so that's why the choir kept going. I would say that when I was about 15, that's when my career properly kicked off. I went to the effort of getting an ABN. I started doing invoicing. I work as an independent contractor as my career, specializing in reconciliation. My original area of expertise, professionally speaking, I would say, was reconciliation. And how that came out was through music. Every now and then I'll be consulted with, like, it's just, you know, I was able to talk about this stuff, like, just off the cuff, because it was basically what I was raised in. But it never quite occurred to me that, like, this is something that not everybody could bring to the table. It was like, it was just how I was particularly raised, and I didn't know anything else until I started getting like a sense of perspective from in the wider community. So that was a huge kind of like thing that kept me busy, was like mostly doing gigs for the sake of cultural celebration, and then doing workshops for the sake of cultural education, and then doing consultancy and all that kind of stuff. And so that was pretty much like the main thing that was happening in my life. I wanted to, every now and then I would be trying my hand at doing all this other stuff, but I had this, you know, I was pretty lucky to have this main source of income coming through in the form of what I hoped to, or what I believe to be a form of societal change for hopefully the better. And so that was one of those main things that kind of kept me going and helped me to kind of like dream in different directions, because if I had this particular support, you know, particular strong sense of direction and strong form of income that allowed me to continuously have a relatively comfortable life, it did give me the ability to be more calm and peaceful about things, and get creative about other things. And so, you know, it'll come to a point where I'll do creative writing. I love writing my own songs. It's one of my favorite things. Releasing my own music is really, really fun. Every spare moment that I have, I translate something, preferably a song. Sometimes writings like Shakespeare, which is not easy to translate, and you know, be able to engage in various hobbies that could potentially shape up to become something that assists me in my career, or assist in some form of societal change. I've been doing that for a long time. Like I say, 15 is in some cases an early time to be starting a career. By the time when I kept you know, doing this kind of stuff. And then things started changing a fair bit in the sense that the referendum was coming up and it started bringing certain people out of the woodwork. There's a guy who I believe who's a pretty big inspiration to me. His name's Thomas Mayo, and he would argue that there are a few bad actors who had come to a certain conclusion about things that ended up being like a main driving force towards getting other people to come towards a certain conclusion without understanding like the full perspective of things.
You mentioned, and I did touch on it. We had the referendum. We're in Reconciliation Week. It has been a challenging 3, 4, 5 years in terms of that reconciliation journey.
Yeah.
This is a journey that, when I say a journey, it's just something that we live, right? Like you've been living it you've been living it your whole life and have been fortunate to share culture, work with kids through music, through language. It's 2026, Reconciliation Week breakfast, and you're on the stage in front of the Premier himself, Roger Cook, in a packed house, singing Midnight Oil, Beds Are Burning in language. For yourself, on a personal level, how important has that been? But to sing a song like that, which, the lyrics are pretty powerful in language, how to close out for yourself, probably closing out Reconciliation Week, how big was that for you?
It was a huge step and not an easy one to take. Mainly because when the referendum happened, what happened after wasn't easy for First Nations Australia. I believed that, as I was entering my 30s and I was having 15 years of reconciliation being my main career, I believe that all dispersed after the referendum. The world changed a lot, and the way that society had shifted in such a way, I believe I saw my main career die, and I had to change tact. And so I started doing less things related to reconciliation and more things related to self-determination, such as become a Noongar language teacher for Noongar kids specifically. Since that has occurred, and so I started feeling a bit more comfortable and satisfied in, being able to forge a relatively different career path, I started thinking about, all right, how to do things in this slightly shifted world. How do I keep going? How do I inspire some level of social change in a relatively different society? My Uncle Jim Morrison doesn't mess around, and there was no slowing him down. The way the referendum affected him was very difficult to see. It hurt him a lot. For somebody I've always known to be so extremely resilient, it did really affect me to see him in this way. But it didn't slow him down. He kept going. And so, he, among so many other people really kind of just motivated me to kind of follow through with doing some more stuff. So for a little while there, I had stopped doing a lot of things for a short while, putting the choirs on hiatus, releasing different songs, and doing what I could to help self-determination for a little while. I saw the world as a hard binary of reconciled and unreconciled, with nobody willing to budge in any particular direction. Last year, Reconciliation Australia selected Solid Rock as the song. So I translated the chorus for that. I handed it to one of my friends so she can sing it in her choir. That song and them singing it in language and stuff, that took off. That became a little bit viral. Enough that Goanna heard about it. And they did like a bunch of like interviews on the radio throughout the year and that kind of stuff. And I'm just like, oh, things are still happening, I guess. And so I was like, all right, I'll keep doing translation. Everything that I translate, anything that I sing, it's all going to continue to exist even after I pass. So this will be a great way of just keeping things going and keeping the language, keeping the culture alive. So I decided that I won't hesitate this time around. As soon as Reconciliation Australia announced their song, I'm going to go ahead and translate it. I'm going to dive right into it. And I did. With Beds Are Burning, it wasn't an easy song to translate. Four wheels scare the cockatoos. We don't have a weather wheels. I use Dordong, which means circle. Dordong midi, circle thing. I translated it from top to bottom. I decided that I wanted to record it. I decided that I wanted to release it. So I did. I shaped it up to be the way that I wanted it to be. And Reconciliation WA heard about it and they wanted to be like, let's sing this at our breakfast. Let's do this. We're going to dive right in. They put a call out, expression of interest, being like, hey, would you like to sing in our makeshift choir at the end of the breakfast? If you're interested in doing this, please, by all means, do so. Join us and stuff. And it was a pretty decent turnout. It was good. I'm trying to remember how many people, like 20-something people. There was a lot of people who were pretty interested in doing so. These just happened to be the people that were available in the day and be able to take part at the time. But yeah, a huge amount of expressions of interest, which was really good. This Voices for Reconciliation thing happens every year, and all these different choirs all throughout Australia take part in it, and this is how we did ours. And it was pretty great that a lot of people showed up on the day. It was really great to be able to just be on the stage and the tables directly in front of us be comprised of just some of our most amazing leaders, spreadiers, elders, just being right there before us. It was very inspiring to hear them cheer us on when we started singing in language. And so can't wait for the next one. Can't wait for the next opportunities on the horizon. The way that things shape up, it's going to be a little bit different. I believe, it comes with strategy. There are some things I can't be doing because it'll be like hitting my head against the wall. You kind of have to just be very strategic in the way that things are being approached. And so I guess, truth-telling is pretty important, and motivating non-First Nations people to help be the ones to reiterate certain truths. The fact that Beds Are Burning is still relevant to this very day is a bit of a, it should be a bit of a wake-up call. And so, a lot of what I translate because some of those lyrics are still relevant. Like I recently translated Talking About a Revolution by Tracy Chapman. I like singing a song, a translation of Blackbird by the Beatles. What else? Yeah, I ended up finishing translating Solid Rock, finally. That was a long time coming. Yeah, and so if you have any songs to suggest, I'll add it to the list.
So,
Not
yeah,
lacking.
there's probably a few there.
Yeah.
And as we start to wind it down, there's a few things that I've picked up. Obviously, and I've mentioned them a few times now. Culture, family, language, grassroots community, our
Mm-hmm.
kids.
Mm-hmm.
You did mention something, chasing your dream. So for any of I guess, our kids or our listeners out there, obviously there would have been some hiccups, but just a few little things. Mainly for our youth or our young kids that are coming through that do have a dream.
Mm-hmm.
You never think you're going to do it. You probably never thought you'd be
Mm-hmm.
playing to the premier or do
Mm-hmm.
be on radio or other bits and pieces like
Mm-hmm.
that.
Mm-hmm.
Just what are some of the things that over the time have supported you to actually chase your dreams and be strong enough to go, you know what, I'm going to go after it.
I had been lucky enough to have the right people around me to help motivate that along. I had wanted to be able to make music. One of the biggest dreams that I have is have followed through with is being able to release music in language. I've released originals in language, and now I'm making a habit of releasing some covers in language, and they are being listened to, and it's really great that some people are giving it a go, because when I release an original, it's much more difficult for people to kind of like clue in as to what I might be singing about if I'm singing in language. I feel like I'm hoping that one dream that I have comes to fruition, where the next generations are a more bilingual generation, and that eventually we have a society in the southwestern and Western Australia, or throughout Australia, where everybody has some level of familiarity of that traditional language, and has no fear in being able to have some of that language under their own belt too. I do believe in a society that can embrace language. I'm witnessing it happen with my kids. I'm witnessing it happen with so many younger people that I know. I believe that this is a thing that could actually happen.
So, just closing out, next few years. Obviously, you've had a busy reconciliation week.
Mm-hmm.
I know that you're in demand at the moment. So, for your music, for your language, as a linguist, working with kids.
Mm-hmm.
Priorities, or I guess, and you say that you mentioned self-determination and reconciliation and stuff that is really relevant for us. Next few years.
Well, next few years, I'll continue to run Majoromona Incorporated, or whatever we shape ourselves to be, for at least another 20 years would be nice. I am on the Aboriginal Advisory Group for Community Arts Network, and I'm hoping to see more cultural endeavours come out through that. Community Arts Network have been going for 40 years, and they have been some major champions when it comes to societal change and cultural celebration. There's a couple of people that I'll recommend from there to be on the podcast. I am on the board at Yirra Yaakin Theatre Company, and I want to see those stories get further out far and wide. I mean, they're already been doing pretty well, but I think that for the sake of truth telling, doing it in the form of stories on stage, and then some, would be pretty magnificent. Some of the stuff that's coming out on that is pretty great. With Yirra Yaakin, I'm getting my certificate in governance for Aboriginal corporations to help with working with the Yirrkala. That's in a very indirect way, that's kind of how I found myself on this podcast. So that's been a really, really fun time. I'm like, clearly the certificate's been doing a great time. Shout out to my fellow, I guess, friends, fellow students, I don't know, who are also doing the certificate at the same time as me, because a lot of them are actually doing it for like native title related stuff. And like, clearly like some of those people have, like, in the short time that I've known them, those people are definitely some of my heroes. What else? I mean, I'm probably going to end up being a teacher forever. I didn't expect that to happen, but loving it. And I'm going to keep making music.
So Kobi, thank you. Teacher, linguist, musician, spokesperson. We like to bring people in and chat to our, I call them our community heroes, people like yourself that are at grassroots, that are actually really driving self-determination and making change within the community. Was really excited to see you last, at the reconciliation breakfast, and really appreciate you coming on. I know you're busy, so we'll look for the next one. For everybody that's listening, thank you. Big thank you to Kobi Morrison. Koortal is his stage name. Look him up, superstar. Drives culture, language, and some of his original stuff is amazing. So until next time, be safe wherever you are, and we'll see you at episode 3. Thank you.